जानना उपासते।
समानो मंत्रः समितिः समानी।
समानो मंत्रः समितिः समानी।
समानं मनः सहचित्तमेषाम्।
समानं मनः सहचित्तमेषाम्।
समानं मन्त्रम् अभिमन्त्रयेवः।
समानं मन्त्रम् अभिमन्त्रयेव।
समानेन वो हविषा जुहोमि।
समानेन वो हविषा जुहोमि।
समानिव आकुतिः।
समानिव आकुतिः।
समाना हृदयानिवः।
समाना हृदयानिवः।
समानमस्तु वो मनो।
समानमस्तु वो मनो।
यथा वः सुसहासति।
यथा वः सुसहासति।
ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः।
ॐ शान्ति शान्ति।
नमस्ते। डॉक्टर सुब्रमण्यम स्वामी जी, यूएनडीपी के पदाधिकारी, लघु उद्योग भारती के पदाधिकारी, मेरे साथीगण एवं उपस्थित उद्यमी बंधु और भगिनों, लघु उद्योग भारती अमरावती और नागपुर विभाग द्वारा आयोजित आज के वेबिनार में मैं उदयन श्रौती, सचिव नागपुर विभाग, हृदयपूर्वक आप सभी का स्वागत करता हूं। मेरे साथी श्रीनिवास जी पांडे, संयोजक आउटरीच एंड स्पेशल प्रोजेक्ट्स नागपुर विभाग, लघु उद्योग भारती और यूएनडीपी पार्टनरशिप के बारे में आप सभी को अवगत कराएंगे। श्रीनिवास जी, प्लीज।
नमस्कार, मैं श्रीनिवास पांडे, लघु उद्योग भारती केंद्रीय कार्यालय नागपुर में सभी उपस्थित उद्यमियों का आज के वेबिनार में सहर्ष स्वागत करता हूं। कोरोना जागतिक महामारी के चलते सभी सूक्ष्म, लघु और मध्यम आधार के उद्योजक अनेक कठिनाइयों से जूझ रहे हैं। ऐसे स्थिति में उभरने के लिए यूएनडीपी और लघु उद्योग भारती में व्यापार निरंतर सलाहकार और कौशल मंच स्थापित करने की योजना कार्यान्वित की है। यूएनडीपी एलयूबी विकास कार्यक्रम के अंतर्गत यूएनडीपी लगभग 177 देशों में कार्य कर रहा है। यह संगठन गरीबी उन्मूलन और असमानता तथा बहिष्करण के कमी के लक्ष्य हासिल करने में मदद करता है। यूएनडीपी के 1951 से मानवीय विकास के लगभग सभी क्षेत्रों में भारत में काम कर रहा है। एलयूबी यूएनडीपी पार्टनरशिप इसी कार्यक्रम का एक हिस्सा है। आज के इस वेबिनार के अधिक जानकारी के लिए मैं लघु उद्योग भारती नागपुर विभाग सचिव श्री उदयन जी श्रोती से अनुरोध करता हूं कि वहां आज का इस कार्यक्रम आगे बढ़ाइए।
नमस्कार, रवलीन सिंह जी खुराना।
हेलो।
रवलीन सिंह जी खुराना, अध्यक्ष नागपुर इकाई लघु उद्योग भारती, डॉक्टर सुब्रमण्यम स्वामी का परिचय देने के लिए आमंत्रित करता हूं। रवलीन जी प्लीज।
धन्यवाद उदयन जी। आज मुझे बताते हुए हर्ष हो रहा है कि हमारे बीच डॉक्टर सुब्रमण्यम स्वामी जैसे राष्ट्रीय स्तर के नेता मार्गदर्शन करने वाले हैं और इनके बारे में कुछ बोलना सूर्य को दिए दिखाने जैसा है। इनकी जो उपलब्धियां हैं वो उनकी लिस्ट इतनी लंबी है कि यदि मैं वो पूरी उपलब्धियां गिनाऊंगा तो शायद हमारा आधा प्रोग्राम उसी में खत्म हो जाएगा। तो भी मैं कोशिश करता हूं कि संक्षिप्त में उनके बारे में थोड़ी सी चीजें आपके साथ शेयर कर सकूं। स्वामी साहब का सबसे पहली जो उपलब्धि थी, उन्होंने एमस्टैट इंडियन स्टैटिस्टिकल इंस्टीट्यूट से 1962 में कंप्लीट किया। Then he went to Harvard University for doing his PhD in economics in 1964, and there he worked under the Nobel laureate Simon Kuznets and also authored research paper on theory along with the Nobel laureate Paul Samuelson. He was also the associate professor in the Harvard University. After that, he came to IIT Delhi and he became the professor in IIT Delhi. He was teaching economics there, and he was also the visiting faculty to the Harvard University. From there, he was chosen by Government of India to become the cabinet minister, and he resigned his position in IIT to join the Government of India. And he has held the various departments like Ministry of Commerce, Law and Justice, and many more ministries. So he was chosen as a noted economist from Harvard and IIT Delhi to head the Commerce Ministry, New Delhi. Subsequently, he is on many different platforms, forums, and he is one of the crusader in the national politics who is always focusing on honesty and removing the corruption from the politics. He is also very active in having the public interest litigations in Supreme Court, and some of the judgments which have been passed against his public interest litigation are known to the country and benefited us all. He is considered as a leading figure in the struggle at the time of national emergency in our country, and he did a great part in restoration of constitutional democracy in our country. He has also taken lead in improving the bilateral relation between Indo-Israel, Indo-Sri Lanka, and Indo-China. And he has taken a lot of initiatives with which now the Israel is very close to our government. We also recall fondly that he had came to Laghu Udyog Bharati Nagpur in the year 2017, and he guided us very nicely. I still remember the interaction we had with him in details, and he told us one thing very clearly, that if India has to progress, we have to focus on the integrated development of industries and agriculture, because the most of the India today is engaged either in MSMEs or in the agriculture sector. And both this sector lack the support from the government and from each other. So if we can work out the strategies in which the agriculture can get a boost from MSME, and MSME works on the agricultural products, the Indian economy can go to the top in the world. And we have been, working on that and also discussing that at the various forums. So now, without taking much of your time, I hand it over to Dr. Subramanian Swamy, who hand it over to the great speaker for whom we have been waiting for months together. So over to Dr. Swamy. Please, sir.
Most of the people had been having this old-fashioned idea that small industry means running the charkha, and producing cloth, khaddar. That is not the concept. The word MSME, मैं हिंदी में बोलूं या अंग्रेजी में बोलूं?
मिक्स चलेगा सर?
नहीं, मैं तो एक ही भाषा में बोलूंगा, तो फिर अंग्रेजी में चलता हूं. आप
ओके सर.
मैं बोलना तो बोल दीजिए, मैं वो कर. So what I would say is that MSME stands for micro, small, and medium industries. This is defined by two variables. One is the investment in plant and machinery, as well as the annual turnover. So if the investment in plant and machinery is less than 1 crore, then it is called a micro. Of course, annual turnover will be less than 5 crores. So therefore, such a categorization of micro will be for that. Then small industry will be about 10 times that, namely 10 crores investment in plant and machinery, and 50 crores is the limit for turnover. Then when you exceed that and become, say, 5 times more, that is 50 crores is the plant machinery investment, and the turnover is 250 crores, up to 250 crores, then you are called medium. So MSME is constituted this way. And anything over that, of course, is taken to be large industry. Now, what is the importance of MSME? It's not only the question of employment. Many people say it gives a semi-skilled and so on and so forth. No, you have to learn from international experience that MSME is the basis of economic transformation. Japan, how did it come up after World War II? It was completely destroyed. Then it became into a great power. By 1995, they were a world leading power, except for a financial crisis they had, which put them back. But Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Singapore, Philippines, all these countries which are called East Asian tigers, they grew how? They grew this way. That I give you the example of Japan to begin with. Japan, you see, what it noticed is that in America, many of the modern industrial products for consumers is produced in a large, establishment, that is a large plant, and the raw materials come from one door on a conveyor belt, and the final product goes out from another door. So Motorola was producing radios and televisions like that. Somebody was producing refrigerators. So therefore, the Japanese said that all this America's system requires huge overhead costs. But they are a labor shortage country, so and it's an expensive labor because they have minimum wages act and so on, and therefore for them it makes sense to have this kind of an integrated system where raw materials come from one door and the final product goes out of the other door. So what they did is they said what we will do is that we will take it apart into several parts, and then we will produce these parts in small industries or medium industries or micro industries, but we will produce it there. And thereby the overhead costs of big plants and cement and steel going in for building these big factory establishments will not be necessary. But what we'll do is we'll take each of these parts and give it to a small industry, and then we will have an assembly. So therefore, Motorola, they took the Motorola radio or television, took it apart into a circuit part, then the screen, and then the knobs, then the case, everything in separately, and they assigned it. And because they had after war a lot of cheap labor, therefore Japan first, then Korea, then Taiwan, then Singapore, all these people by imitation were able to produce consumer electronic products, telephones, later on even iPhones have now become produced this way. So all these methods that these were used was based on micro, small and medium industries. And that's how they generated employment. They generated cheaper products than the Microsoft. So Microsoft closed down. All television station producers in America closed down. People were buying Sony, or they were buying from South Korea, like that. And you have seen this. So this is the revolution that was caused in Japan, South Korea, and all these East Asian countries. Then as they became prosperous, it became the labor also became expensive. So they could not compete with other countries. But China understood this. And what China did was it told all these East Asian countries after 1972, when America recognized China and then promoted China so as a counterweight to Soviet Union, the Chinese used the American influence to persuade Taiwan to say produce the bare parts, and then they will add the value added to the final. For instance, Lenovo, the circuit, everything is prepared in Taiwan. It comes to China. Then China, what it does is it puts the keyboard, then it puts the screen, and then it puts the case, and then puts the stamp Lenovo, made in China. 95% of the products, industrial products produced in China is not produced in China. It is produced in East Asian countries, and they only add value and put the chap. The only country which resisted doing that was Apple. They said, we will produce our phones in your country, but you have to write manufactured in California, USA. So, but all the others, the Chinese products are not fundamentally Chinese products. They are value-added Chinese products. And that's how they use the small industries for the purpose, and medium industries, and soon it became big. Now China has become where labor is also becoming expensive. India is in a beautiful situation, provided it does what these companies like in Korea, in South Korea, in Japan and all want. And that means India must streamline its bureaucracy, land allotment should be streamlined, or big roads should be built. And we have got a very efficient minister called Nitin Gadkari. He can do wonders, and he has done already wonders. But the other day, he was abusing the NHA for sleeping over and not completing projects. So as long as we are We build long networks of roads and airfields, small for small planes, and access to ships and the harbor and so on. Then we can build the same thing which China did in a better form, because our labor is far more skilled than the Chinese labor. You would be surprised to know. So small and medium industry has to be, small, medium and micro industries has to be the base of our industrial development. Not this hunting for some foreigner to come here and open a factory and so on. That will not do. I mean, that will not promote India's industrial development in the true sense of the word. It will make us more dependent on foreign companies. So I would say that the first point I want to tell you is that the success of Japan and all these East Asian countries is due to micro, small and medium industries. And we have not been doing that. And that is why our industrial development is not keeping the pace with any of the other countries with whom we have so many advantages. Especially we have, our country's democracy, it has courts, so intellectual property rights. In China, you don't know when your intellectual property rights will be stolen. So today, if we want to defeat China economically, put China out of business by telling all these East Asian countries, come to India and make it easy for them to get land to build their companies, to build their buildings for their companies, and build the roads and connect it to the ports, connect it to the airports. This is one of the things that we need to do very, very strongly. Now, I would also say to you that we must understand that today one of the business challenges is how to make profit. I'm sorry to say we have had some really bad economists in the government, really bad people in the Reserve Bank who have squeezed the small and medium industries and micro industries. What this Raghuram Rajan did, why did I ask the Prime Minister to sack him? It took me 2 years to get him sacked. What he was doing was either out of terrible ignorance or due to mischief. He kept on raising the interest rates. And the argument you gave is, in order to control inflation, I have to control money supply. And therefore, I have to raise the interest rates so that people will borrow less. And that's idiotic. In fact, the country's problem was essentially this, that because of high interest rates, medium, small and micro industries were suffering enormously. And therefore, they were closing down during the period of 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16. Our small and medium industries were closing down in big numbers, and they still have not recovered. We must therefore create an industrial climate for medium and small industries. And that is, make it easy to take loans. Rate of interest should not be more than 9%. Today, the prime lending rate is 12%. And by the time you get your loan, after giving all the little bribes and bakshish, it will become 13, 14%. And if you want it quickly, you won't get it. So if you want a policy for small, medium, small MSMEs to speak, then we must ensure that capital is available. By raising interest rates, you are making the cost of capital to small MSMEs so much that they will become bankrupt or they will become NPAs. So that is what has happened in our country, and that is what we have to overcome. So I would say that one of the things we have to do. Second, MSMEs must be favored by public sector organizations to do intermediate production. Some of our intermediate industries, small industries, have got world records. For example, automobile spare parts, automobile ancillaries. You will find that in Japan, which has has instituted a prize called Deming Prize, because there was a professor of statistics at Harvard called Deming, who invented the quality control diagram. And that quality control diagram measured the band within which the quality would not vary. And that was used to decide the quality of products. And therefore, in his name, they instituted a price. And you'll be surprised that for years, the last 20 years, every year, India is the #1 in the best automobile ancillaries. We don't produce the best cars. We're still producing Honda and other people's cars. But our own cars are not of this international quality. But the spare parts produced by India is used all over the world, and we get this price. How many people know this? Our people think small and medium industries mean semi-literate people coming together and producing some screw or some lock or something like that. You can produce, as I say, by disassembling disassembling a product and producing different parts at different places. And if you have a big park, then you can all do it there and assemble it there also, which is what China did in Shenzhen, or China did in Dalian. In so many places in China, they opened these parks by which various countries producing different parts of a machine came together, and then the final machine was available. So if you look at the Chinese foreign trade data, you find China has always been in deficit to East Asia and a big surplus in trade to the Western countries, that is Europe and America. Why? Because they were importing from East Asia semi-processed goods and then adding value to it and then exporting the same thing to America and Europe. Previously, from East Asia used to go directly, but then the labor became so expensive, it didn't become competitive. So China uses cheap labor, paid the East Asian countries, and collected a bigger amount by high prices. So refrigerators, washing machines, computers, everything China was producing, which earlier East Asia was producing. And they were making profit in this way. So I think we today should not be so defensive. We must ask the government that if you want an industrial revolution, it cannot come through Bhilai steel plant and such big industrial units. It has to come by MSMEs, and these MSMEs will produce at cheaper price because the overheads will not be there. And two, they will generate employment most of all. And therefore, I should say that the importance given to the MSME ministry should be much more than the Ministry of Industries. But in our country, we think these are all something that have to be subsidized for the sake of social good and all that. No, it is that you have to have that mindset that this will lead the industrial revolution, and we have a huge labor surplus. So this new generation of youngsters who come, we have the youngest population in the world in terms of percentage. Average age of Indian today is only 26 years old, average age. The average age of a Chinese is 35 because they went in for this one child per family thing, and therefore now their population started aging. And the average age of American is 37. And Europe, average age in Europe is 46. Average age of population in Japan is 50. These are all aging populations. We have got this young population. Give them the skill and give them the incentive to produce new innovations. Tomorrow you want to have hydrogen fuel cells for your car, your MSMEs can do it the best. You want to prepare a cold storage plant, the MSEs can do it the best. So identify this way, and then make sure that once an MSME sells its product, they will be paid within a month. I have found many MSME industrialists tell me, that we don't get paid for even three years, and then after that nobody gives us interest also. And particularly bad is the public sector organization. Corruption hurts MSME much more than it hurts big industries. So therefore, the environment has to be created. You should be able to move your your goods smoothly and through. We have created GST. It's a nightmare today because so many forms you have to fill it. This more simple is the tax system, the better for our industrial development. So, giving importance to the MSMEs, the business meeting the business challenges, which all of you know even better than me, and the opportunities. That is, you must tell all public sector organizations, you must decentralize your production to giving contracts to MSMEs. That kind of way, if you do, I think we can generate 10 to 12% growth rate in GDP. Today we have 63 million MSMEs, and all of them are at the margin. And this is a very sad thing. We should be liberal. We should give them loans, and it should be long term. It should be low interest rates. And this is the way in which we can industrialize. You can't industrialize by bringing people from abroad. You can't, because they come here in order to recover their capital in 3 years. And some of them only end up destroying our internal system. For instance, if Walmart comes, all our people in agriculture who are middlemen, who are buyers, who assist in buying and selling, who are people who lend small amount of loans to farmers, they'll all go out of business. Why do we need to import anything unless we want to import spare parts or we want to import a new innovation? But otherwise, we don't need to import anything in our country. Prime Minister has now started talking about Atmanirbhar development, but this country has always been very, very self-sufficient. And the reason it was very special is it has decentralized its economy. Those days they used to call it Lagu Udyog only, which basically meant sitting in the villages and spinning your own cloth. But that's a concept. But now we can produce a wide variety of industrial products, agricultural pesticides, agricultural tools, everything now in these three categories of MSMEs. And so I think this country must encourage the MSMEs now to resuscitate after the after this COVID virus is over, and motivate our people and encourage our students that become one of the entrepreneurs in MSMEs. Research and development, government must do the research and development for the sake of the MSMEs. This is the way to move forward. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
स्क्रीन शेअरिंग कोण करताय हे करा ते स्क्रीन माझा ना त्याला हे ग्रिड व्यू घेऊन द्या अरे ते स्क्रीन शेअरिंग बंद कर तिकडनं ते वरती जा